everybody, Angela here with Orgone Crystal Alchemy. Thank you for tuning in. And I have so much to share with you guys. I have been guided to start telling my stories. And this is years worth of stories. These stories have been sort of like sealed, if you will, inside of myself, being kept, sacred to myself. But I am now being guided to start sharing them all. And some of them seem pretty sort of fantastical. And sharing them in their entirety is very vulnerable and takes courage on my end, but it is my next phase of this journey in my life. So I am going to be sharing a lot of stories of things that have happened on international trips to sacred sites, and the inward journey and transformation that was happening simultaneously, because that's what happens when we take journeys to sacred sites. When we are acknowledging the sacredness of a place that we are visiting, we're simultaneously acknowledging the sacredness inside of ourselves. And, many people who go on these journeys with awareness are also going on an inward journey of self-discovery, transformation, and empowerment. And I'm going to be sharing my stories with you, and you may connect with them if you've gone on journeys to sacred sites, or this may inspire you to start going on your own journeys. So I have so much to share, and I'm going to be making a video or several video series, and this is the beginning of a series for my first trip to Ireland. So far I've had 3 trips, and there was a lot leading up to this trip and every trip, but I'm going to begin with how it all came together. Like, how did I go to Ireland? So this is video number 1 in the first trip to Ireland series. So how did it come about? Back in 2001, December, I had an experience where it's funny how things happen, but generally, so I'm a swimmer. So even through the winter, I will go to the gym, swim laps. It's my exercise and I love it. So this one day, I decided not to go. And I decided, and I don't know why, generally I just go, just get up and go. So this particular morning, I decided to sit on the couch and meditate. And so I made my cup of tea and sat on the couch, cross-legged, and just, settled into a meditation. And having the knowledge, I feel very close to Jesus and Mary Magdalene as, part of my guidance system in this life. So I wanted to connect with Jesus as a guide in this meditation. And so what I did, having the knowledge that everything occurs simultaneously, everything's happening at once, we're just having sort of the experience of linear time in this life. I decided to connect with Jesus in his physical incarnation. And I visualized him sitting on a rock meditating, and I was connecting myself to his physical presence in his physical life. And what I did was I connected my third eye with his and made that connection. And then something happened that I have never experienced before in all of the meditations I've had. And luckily, I had seen enough videos of QHHT sessions and what those are like for people, because I pretty much had a QHHT session in my meditation. And so this is what happened. I'm not going to actually go into deep detail. I'm only going to give some highlights because some of this is still being kept personal. But I was suddenly in a land, and I was in the rolling green hills, and I was standing there, sure enough, as if I was physically there in this life, with like that crisp, clear awareness. And having watched many QHHT sessions and questions that get asked, I wanted to find out why I was there. So I started asking myself those same questions. So I said, where am I? And I knew the answer right away. I was in Ireland. And I started asking, okay, why am I here? And I began to see that this was connecting with a past life as though I were in it right now. And I began to see that, I was a druid in that life. And some things had happened with some people that I was connected to. This was a very sort of spiritual mission type of life. And that this life was being brought to my attention because it was going to have to do with some things that I'm working with in this life. And I began to remember this powerful spiritual connection I had with that land. So that began the connection with Ireland, and I want to say remembrance of that connection with Ireland. And then I began to find other people who also were having past life memories of Ireland, and they happened to be my friends. So we were like, hey, we need to go to Ireland. So we began, planning a trip together to Ireland. So there were three of us here in the US that were going to go, and there was actually one person who lives in Ireland who was also a friend of ours. And as it turns out, he was going to be helping sort of guide us, being that he knows Ireland so well. He was going to be sort of guiding us on where to go, what to do, which we were very grateful for. So I'm going to go into more of the things that were happening before to prepare for the trip. And having taken quite a few trips already, at this point, it has been a trend that every time a trip is coming, there is tremendous preparatory work and information coming in. So I'm going to share some of this preparatory information that was coming in to prepare us all for the trip, and myself. So there were two things for sure that I knew energetically that were going to happen during this trip. And one was that this trip was going to be like a death and rebirth for myself. The other thing I knew was that it would be almost like what I could call a merging with a future version of myself. I guess I see that now as just rapid transformation and acceleration in personal evolution. And then another thing that I knew was that I was told by my guides, a spirit guide, that I needed to get into the water somewhere at some point, that I needed to get into the water in Ireland. And the way that came about was I will often have visions, and I'll interact with and see other beings. And this was a water being that I saw, was a female, and her body was made completely of water, very fluid in movement, but also had form. And she introduced herself to me, and she was the one that let me know I needed to get into the water in Ireland. And of course, after receiving guidance like that, it's like, oh my God, okay, what body of water? How am I going to know what water to get into and when and where and all that stuff, right? All that comes up. Of course, in retrospect, it all came together organically, but I'll keep that in mind. Some more information that came through prior to the trip. Interesting things were happening. So many of you might be familiar with the state that you can get into when you are in between sleeping and waking state. And I was laying in bed, waking up from sleeping, but I was still in between. And this is the only time I have experienced this yet in my life. But my physical body said a word on its own. And the word was tua, T-U-A, tua. And I was like, what is that about? But it came with a vision. And the vision was with a symbol. And I drew the symbol out so that I could show it to you. It is 4 circles together, tua. And I was shown more information about this, is the 4 circles coming together, and it's more about the space in the middle, the shared space between the 4 circles. And I got the word gateway, and that tua somehow is linked with the gateway of this symbol. And something else that was coming through is the heart energies related to this symbol. And then I was shown that the number 4 is related to the heart. And what's interesting is that the heart has 4 chambers, and it's the 4th chakra. And that there was something important about the 4 circles coming together and the shared space that they have in the middle, and that middle space is like a portal through the heart. Let's see. So, in preparation for this trip, being that I make orgonite, I was guided to make little orgonite pucks that had this symbol in them. And then I also put an emerald in the middle, in that middle sort of portal. I'm calling it the heart portal. So I made a whole bunch of those pucks so that we could, all of us, we could sort of plant them around wherever we were guided to on the land. And in addition to making those pucks, I was also guided to make an orgonite pyramid, but it was like a double pyramid, like an octahedron in that shape. And it also contained that the 4 circle symbol of the heart gateway. And it was on both upside down and right side up pyramids, so there were 2 of them. So that was part of the preparatory work. And another thing that happened is I had an experience where some channel had opened up inside of me, and I began to receive information about spirals. And so I'm going to kind of share some of that, of some of the visions that were coming through and the information that was being shown to me. So this first top part is this infinity symbol that is expanding out, just out and out and out. And what I was shown with that symbol is it's one of the sort of laws of the universe, as above, so below. And also that the energy accumulates right here in the center. And the center point is a very important point in this spiral pattern, in this crossover. And that it's the energy in this crossover point that builds up the energy to keep expanding out and expanding out and expanding out into infinity. And that this crossover point is energy into matter. And the other words that came through with that was magic and love. So that was one. And keep in mind this symbol because it comes into play in one of the stories that happened. Some more information that came in about spirals is what I have written here. One is, let's see, the out breath of man into spirit and the in breath of spirit into man. And then this type of spiral where it goes both in and out at the same time is man and spirit in oneness beyond space and time. And yeah, anyway, so I had received all of that also prior to the trip to Ireland. So all of that was the build up to the trip.